Yes.
Ta, ta.
I'll be down there, I guess.
So we want to exercise in front of the kids. Yeah, I think yeah, unfortunately. Sometimes people use that one.
Test, test.
But then you're very far away from the ambient. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a problem, right? Help
Yeah, yeah. No, because I think like this laptop was like nostalgic. I want because to be connected here, so we should have put it there. And we could of course bring a laptop.
Hello? Perfect. Someone will be collecting the headphones. I hope you like the video. I feel sometimes we're so immersed in our daily routines that we just miss our connection with nature, right? My name is Juliana. I'm currently doing an internship at WWF, but I'm also a master's student at Wageningen. A few days ago in the office, we had this event with the people from government of Paraguay and the Netherlands to speak about nature-based solutions for navigation. The Dutch commissioners, they were sharing the long history, the mistakes, and the lessons learned they've had with the rivers, which is, well, quite broad. And they were sharing this program called Room for the Rivers, which is a nature-based solutions, which aims to, well, basically create room for the rivers, like space for the rivers to flow, and this will reduce the risk of flooding. The program has been a success, and I think it proves that building with nature does has a payback, and it's only one of the multiple solutions that you can bring to the table to reduce the risk and impacts of water management. So welcome everyone. I hope this event excites you and motivates you to be part of the nature-based future challenges. These will help you to think of transformative solutions for the river Mississippi Delta. This event is part of the Nature-Based Future Challenges organized by WUR Student Intelligence in collaboration with the ESG program Green Climate Solutions. So to start warming up, I would like to invite you that in a couple of minutes you discuss with your neighbor what is relationship with nature and what does it mean to you. Hey, thank you. All right. Well, I'm really excited to see this kind of looks like a super productive conversation. I would like to ask Jaap. Jaap, would you share with us your insights?
Yeah, I'll try. It's a big question, our relation with nature and how it translates to work. I think we were talking. It is a matter. It's really at the root of many mistakes we made. Make this impression that nature is something else and we are not part of it. Well, actually, we very much are. We depend on nature. I think movies like this also gives you a feeling about nature, and once we start working more from that feeling and trusting, I hope we can prevent some mistakes for future and start, let's say, thriving together with nature. That's my personal aim.
Perfect. Thank you. So, well, you already heard Jaap. Jaap is also our keynote speaker today. He's a project manager at HNS Landscape Architecture. Jaap has an extensive experience on large-scale and complex water challenges, both domestically and at international level. And he also has a broad experience on strategic projects related to transitions in rural and metropolitan landscape. He's a promoter of smart combinations of innovative solutions with opportunities for ecological, recreational, and economic development. Jaap studied at Wageningen University as well, landscape architecture. So, Jaap, welcome home. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction and also the invitation to speak and to be indeed back home. It feels like that. I'll share some of my work at HNS and hopefully inspires you for the conversation afterwards. And there's also the other speaker, Kevin, who will join the talk after. Oops. Yeah, so my name is Jaap van der Salm. I'm with HNS Landscapes Architects. We are based in Amersfoort, and I grew up there in Zoeterwoude. It's near Leiden. It's right on the edge of the Green Heart, in the middle of the polder. And of course, the polder, as a tradition for water management and land use planning in Netherlands, is very, very important. Many of the old landscapes we have been created by us. You could say these were the first landscape architects, maybe more like engineers, right? Calculating, but shaping our land. Well, over time, also the land where I grew up, the peat polders have fallen below sea level rise because we started to drain the land, and now we are in a very controlled and safe situation, but also challenges for the future. We have had our challenges in '53, the last major flood event, and we're still, responding to that in a way. And a large part of the Netherlands has actually also been, very strongly influenced, right, with big dams closing off the sea arms of Zealand. To prevent flooding and make the land safe. But also this was always done also by investing in the kind of country that we want to be. So the dams are also roads, right? It's a multifunctional plan. It's about regional development as well as flood defense, but a very heavy impact on the environment. Nowadays, we might do it different. Big projects. So also from that time, there is a strong collaboration between planning and design in the Netherlands. Ateliers really thinking about the long-term future of the country and trying to make the wisest decisions. And that is also where our office got its inspiration from. There's a lot of text on this sheets, but we try to work, let's say, on all the skill levels and also really think about the whole country as a whole, as a design project. Try to think about functioning landscapes and have a sort of, in Dutch you say vanzelfsprekende schoonheid, but that would be a natural beauty. If it works, it is also beautiful. Trying to create conditions for also natural processes and other human dynamics to take part on that canvas of the landscape. And it's a collaboration, so it's always teamwork. Roman knows because he was with our office for a while. So again, if we look at coastal landscapes, it's and long-term futures, there's many choices, big choices to be made. So often this also involves scenario planning, right? Thinking about, well, what if we continue on the current strategies? What if we would maybe change the system back to open? These kind of strategic studies we do a lot and are interesting to us. And then the aim is for us to see how can we work as effectively as we can with the natural systems. This is some historic images because, right, you quickly forget, but the Netherlands looked very different not so long ago, and it's all a very dynamic landscape, which is actually raising itself above sea level, or it wants to raise itself above sea level. The coast is naturally growing, sometimes receding, but these systems are there, and we should try to work with them as wise as we can. I'll show a few examples of that later. This is a famous one, which the Salm engine project. Such a concept has many fathers and mothers. Our office, some people were also one of them. It's on the coast, and it's a good example, I think, of how we can smartly, right? We're nourishing all the beaches constantly for the flood defense of the coast. But this is a smarter way to do it by putting the sand in one place and having then the sea with its currents distribute the sand, and naturally having erosion happening, having sedimentation happening. It's a successful project. And over time, it's already been there for a while. You really see the dynamic changing, and such a place also gets discovered by people. Recreational people can go there for kiting, for walking. So it's an example of how to invest in the landscape with a perspective view, and it is a beautiful place to visit. Some examples from the US. Also a nice link with the Nature-Based Future Challenge coming up. I worked in New Orleans for a while. When I was a student, actually in Wageningen, I did my thesis there together with David Wagoner and a whole group of people who were involved. Maybe Michael was even also involved. It was a great time, and it came from the fact that David's city looked like this. While it's in the middle of a delta, just like us, you don't see water anywhere. It's behind flood walls or even underground. And this was after Hurricane Katrina flooded the city, but also in every year there's many, let's say, flooding situations within this big ball because of heavy rainfall, much more heavy than in Netherlands. So after the flood event, many people were thinking about the future of the city, how to rebuild in the best way. And one aim was to bring together architects, landscape architects, engineers, social scientists to design on it. So from that process, we worked on the city, approach the city as a landscape, really closely understand the foundational layers, the soil buildup, the network of infrastructure that we made, and then the occupation on top to aim. And the aim of this project was to work on the internal water system, so not the flood defense outside, that was then being done separately. A lot of the city is subsiding. All the green areas are heavily subsiding, and it would help to have more water storage there in the lowest area to let's say make space for water and hold the water. And not coincidentally, all those low areas are the former marshes that were drained and are really the polder areas. So the brown areas are actually the high areas along the river and the former bayous, which are safer and stronger foundations. So you see very strongly the way how the city settled the landscape back into also its water challenges. And nowadays, all of that water is being pumped out of one big polder, huge pumps, impressively big, are draining, but at the same time causing these subsidence and making the length sink more and more. So the vision we explored was, how can we, similar to Dutch water management principles, slow the water down, delay it, store it, keep it there, and try to make a sponge city. And also, when we do all these investments, can we, let's say, make it into a water city, New Orleans? Because, well, you remember the picture, there's not much water visibly currently, while there are beautiful examples in Netherlands and elsewhere in the world. So it was a plan to really look at all the waterways and potential new ones there, and see if we could transform these infrastructure into amenities for the city. Of course, not easy. There's a whole story behind this, but this is the vision that we explored. And it could become linear parks, right? So a green-blue, let's say, network in the landscape, but also in cities. We can achieve a lot. So it could even become the new, let's say, spatial planning perspective for the city and really become this delta city with a green network connecting neighborhoods with city centers, maybe slow traffic, and branding the city better, having also economic opportunities. This project was actually funded by the Economic Development Board of the city. So such visions, and this is the historical bayou, which is one example, but you could have many more in here. There's a lot of space in American cities, and we explored how can we fit in this water. Another example, this is from the New York area, came after Hurricane Sandy, struck around 2012. Similar process, many designers got engaged. We looked around, talked to people, went into the region, trying to explore this challenge of sea level rise and storm surges because of extreme events in a place where there's no dikes. So these water levels are really hitting the houses. They are not protected like in Netherlands or in New Orleans. At the same time, this dynamic of water coming in and out is also crucial for the local ecosystem, the many species profiting from this gradients that are there. So walling it off has severe consequences, as we saw in New Zealand. And what our proposal was for the competition was a comprehensive plan looking at the barrier islands along the coast and the bays that are behind, trying to shelter and think about the flood safety of that, and also considering the internal waterways coming in. And this is all the white is a city actually, so it's not empty. This is just one big city. Trying to think about also the economic potential there to come up with a comprehensive plan, which is really working with the natural system. So similar to sand motor principles, trying to think about the sediment flows. There is sediment flowing there. How can we optimize it along the barrier islands? How can we, in the bays, perhaps create some buffers, because this bay is huge and because of wave run up, all the water ends up at one point. So can we use infrastructure that is already there to somehow compartmentalize in a smart way? Can we make buffer zones to prevent wave action and wave damage, and therefore shelter, let's say, the urban coast by strengthening the marshes? And can we have a very smart and sensitive way to introduce small-scale water management practices on the waterfronts that preserve also the qualities that are there? The project is called Living with the Bay because the people there live at the bay. And can we keep that quality? It becomes possible to do less if you do all the other stuff in the ecosystem. And there's also an opportunity to add more urban green. So it's an example of how really understanding the system can provide input into strategic planning in collaboration with nature. Some more details. This is about the idea of introducing. We were talking about similar ideas over the lunch. Can we strengthen parts of the marshland to be raised a little bit and and therefore buffer, let's say, the waves coming in at a storm surge? It doesn't solve you yet from sea level rise, because if you close it off, or you would need to close it off for that. But this could be a longer term strategy to connect the lines, perhaps. Some images about that quality of living with the bay, as I was explaining, and trying to find solutions that also fit the local culture. And pelicans hopefully also enjoy this landscape as they do now. Then the last project is about Rotterdam, back to the Netherlands, where we are currently working on the Rijnmond-Rechtstede area. Here, Rotterdam is a major harbor city, right? Very tough, big buildings, big waterways, big ships, and big distance to the water also. Big harbor, lots of fossil and petrochemical industry. Big questions also for the future. How to what is the future of the harbor? And in the past, here you see this whole harbor landscape has really claimed a large part of the natural landscape, which used to be much more dynamic environment with all kinds of river arms flowing through. So this is a zoom in on a particular part where you see how old river arms have over time transformed into harbor area and also have been closed off. So now there is a barrier here, and this is the Nieuwe Waterweg, which was actually a canal that was dug to improve the connections because other connections were silting up. Over time, this whole landscape has transformed to, well, basically an industry that you see here. And what we are working on is to really try to understand how did this landscape evolve, where did it come from, and which trends are there to respond to, for example, sea level rise, which is expected at the end of the century, and what would be then the wise way to further develop the city and the harbor. And there's a lot of choices to be made. It looks complicated. It is complicated. But that is also the interesting part, where also design can help to make this understandable. One, I won't explain all of that, but one interesting idea is that currently there are two waterways connected to the sea, of which the Nieuwe Waterweg could actually be transformed if we would verondiepen. So that means if it is allowed to silt up, it would prevent salt intrusion, it would prevent other negative effects, and it would offer a chance to bring back these natural qualities, while the other channel, the Calland Canal, would remain open for shipping. This idea has been tested with the University of Utrecht. Maarten Kleinhans has built a model, and now we can quickly show the animation of what happens if you stop dredging this channel and just allow nature to run its course. Does it want to run? Oh, yeah. You see, right, nature taking back over, and there's a lot of sediment flowing along the coast and wanting to get in, wanting to raise the delta. If we would allow it, something like this would happen. You see the especially also the harbor area silting up, and the waterway itself again becoming with flat tidal lands. And what we are now further researching is how this process works. Here you see it again. So what you saw was this channel, the Nieuwe Waterweg. Is it an idea that we would allow this to renaturalize as a part of a nature-based solutions to water management, flood safety near Rotterdam? It would, as I said, would allow the other canal to be the main connection for the shipping, and with a possible new connection or improving the sluices, there would be we can keep the hinterland accessible for smaller ships, and we would really restart this sediment engine, and thinking about, can we make this sediment more productive? Currently, there's a lot of dredging, as you saw, to prevent what is happening in the movie. It's just being pushed back to the sea, and then over time, well, it's kind of bringing sediment back to the sea. Can we do something with? Can we maybe also find an urban strategy to raise city land? Can we? This is the Haringvliet, another major arm. Can we there also bring back the sediment into the system and allow these landscapes on the edges to naturally raise? Now there's a dike strategy and a freshwater strategy. I won't go too much in detail, but this proposal we also did for the AOIers competition. It could be a future vision for the Rotterdam area, which would create, would further build on this delta identity also of the city and the region, and provide space for all kinds of habitats that are under stress. A little bit more about water. Waterkerende landschappen, so water retaining landscapes, is a Wisselpolder idea. Many people have also worked on that idea. The main idea is you put back the dike and you allow, let's say, a zone between the old dike and the new to again flood and become again this tidal wetlands, which over time get raised. And then you could, once the land is raised, turn this back into farmland, and in such a strategy over time raise a bigger zone than just the dike, and work on the flood safety. Because here you see a sketch of Lodewijk where you see this intermediate zone slowly raising and helping with the future dike systems that this is long term, we'll need in the future much stronger dikes. This is how such landscapes look, and they could become, you can imagine this new landscape. Many people are working on that. This is still from the movie Monding van Morgen. It's very much recommended by Rick van der Linde and Jeroen Helmer's painting the new landscapes. And also in urban environments for the city, this strategy can really mean a lot of quality, actually. So it paints also that, right? How can we reimagine the waterfronts? How can we reinvite nature into our cities, and how can we thrive together? That's my talk.
Thank you, Jaap. Oh, perfect. Now we would have some round of questions. I would like to start with mine. But then you were talking about the flooding and like all the solutions that can be implemented for, but we will also face climate change and there's also risk of droughts. So how can you like navigate between both floodings and water retention, for example, as you were mentioning in the New Orleans case study?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. I didn't talk so much about drought, but indeed it's about integrated water management. And quickly, there was one slide about the freshwater system. So lots of agriculture and other industries and all kinds of uses for fresh water. Very much part of the problem, the challenge, let's say, because if we open up the city with all its system, with all its advantages, it also means salt water gets more easily in. So it is about trying to have buffers. We have in Netherlands as a whole, we have IJsselmeer as a buffer. Also in Zealand, there are buffers. And it's about, we are blessed with many rivers flowing through our country. So it's about maybe shifting a few intake points for drinking water or other, let's say, inlets into these polders. Figure them out a little bit more smartly can make it work for us. Then there's climate change even broader. Droughts are, right, heat island effects in the cities. All these such effects will, I think, potentially benefit very much from such a strategy where we invite nature into our environment back again, because it all helps to cool the cities, etc. Is that an answer to your question?
Totally. Thank you. Anyone? Yes, I'll give you the microphone to you.
So this is related to the marshland project in the US. Reintroducing, like getting people in contact with marshlands is very nice. I did my thesis on using nature-based solutions to treat wastewaters, so using like wetlands and stuff in a coastal island in the tropics. But one of the concerns I was facing was the nuisance from it, mainly through like mosquito breeding grounds. And with climate change in the summers in marshlands, that would also lead to potential problems. Is there a possibility to like model this in a small scale, before you implement it at a large scale, how do you know like it will the people around living around it will not face problems with it?
It's a good question, and it's a legitimate concern. Has also been raised in New Orleans and elsewhere. One thing to look at it is if you have a healthy ecosystem, it will help to contain this. So fish and other animals, other insects eat insects. So right, if the ecosystem is there to prevent, let's say, enormous amount of mosquitoes, this helps. But still, it should be looked at very carefully because it's also not for without reason. The swamps were drained for many reasons, and one of them was also the mosquito challenges. There's not an easy answer to this, but it needs to be considered as part of such projects, indeed.
Oh, would you help me? Thank you.
I have a question about the long-term vision, because now I have the feeling that most people working on those kind of projects have the short-term vision in mind. How do you think about that? Is the shift already there, or do we need to shift more?
I would say it is shifting, but it is also very difficult because there's many reasons why people are thinking about the short term. At the same time, a lot of work is being done about trying to project ourselves, well, end of the century, even longer, and make the wisest decisions. As designers, we can help also to visualize and to create these stories. We need better stories. But it's not just designers, it's I don't know your field, but right, there's many disciplines involved in such projects. And as scientists or engineers or other disciplines, I think, with also the knowledge and capabilities that we have the responsibility to show these possibilities, possible futures. And but then not stop there, not just dream, but to try to really put in the difficult work of, you call it adaptive planning. So we are at a certain point and there's different choices we can make, and some are right pathways, you could call it, and you can make a strategic plan for it, because also there's a lot of uncertainty still in many factors. So the challenge is to come up with very good advice to people making decisions on what is possible and how would be the best way to stumble forward, we sometimes say. Yeah. Okay. And it is really right, the movies and we need everything to bring also awareness of how we started the afternoon, with really feeling that we are part of nature, and then also choosing from that, and maybe not always the easy way, right? Exactly. The currently invested way, but if we want to make the jump to doing things differently, also some people profit very or more than others. Some people need to make offers, and the only way to do that is if you can provide a lot of meaning in return. So they need a good story why they would give up their land to make these landscapes that can help the rest of us stay safe from flooding, for example. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, but we're going in the right direction with many of us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I was a bit curious about from your position, what sort of barriers you feel in the more like the social perception of this opening up of the deltas, or for example in the Haringvliet and things like that, based on like the cultural memory of people in the Netherlands. Like what groups of like people do you need to contact more? I don't know if like in a designer perspective to sort of agree on this trend more to like open up the system, or like reach a more connected nature system. Yeah.
It builds on the previous question. I think we really need to sit down and listen to each other, because often indeed there are cultural reasons why now, for example, people remembering the flood, or people with a more agricultural tradition based, which are also not let's say, as enthusiastic about changes and excited about changes than other people. And the only way, and then you get into polarization, into fences, and you're not listening, you're just shouting at each other. So somehow we need to find the cultural process to talk with each other about also the difficult aspects of it, and then the politics will follow. That's my view.
Thank you.
I also have a question. Thank you very much. Something I always struggle with as a landscape architecture student is I also think about these challenges. I like to look at the maps and of the Netherlands, but also of American cities. And what I see is in Rotterdam, it's already very built up, and but there's still some space to design. But if I look at the American cities, I sometimes think Dutch cities will look like that in the future, because here's also a housing shortage, and we are building more industrial places and a lot more houses. Do you think there's in the future there will still be enough space to design all these nature-based solutions if all these spots I feel like are eaten up by built-up area?
Yeah, it's a good question. Space is definitely a challenge, especially here, but elsewhere also, because we all settled in the most attractive spots, but they turn out to be quite challenging also. One way of looking at it is we need to combine, right? It's also in the national principles with meervoudige oplossingen. So we need to find smarter ways of combining different functions. That's an important one. And space is also time. So these natural solutions are attractive, but they take a lot of time. So we need to, if you want to start this path of natural raising the delta, for example, near Rotterdam, then you need to start now in order to be there 50 years from it. But if we don't, then slowly, right, we develop this a bit more, we develop that a bit more, and then the chance is gone, potentially. So yeah, it's a challenge, but also an exciting one. As you are in landscape architecture, you can help with this.
Sure, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, one last question.
Yeah, so I really like the way you framed it as inviting nature back into cities. And when you say that, it also implies that at some point we kicked nature out, right? And my question is, if that was an intentional choice to remove nature from cities relating to like design trends or preferences or what's perceived as sophisticated and civilized, or if it was an accidental thing that happened because of a lack of attention or prioritizing cost or short-term developments?
Well, that's a big question. I think lots happened partly intentionally, like we're talking about the mosquitoes, and there are a lot of nuisances, but there's also a lot of unintentional. We didn't really understand what we were doing. Nowadays we have a lot more understanding, so we can intentionally invite nature back. It's about worldviews also, right? Some people, maybe many people in the room, feel the need and the urgency to go this path. Other people have different views. Then we get really into deep philosophy about the Western culture, because, right, the Western perspective is very much about, changing and making it work better, whereas other cultures maybe have a different approach of relating with nature. So there's a lot if we start to dig into, right, what we are doing as an individual and collectively, but it is the root of the mistakes that we're making. We can talk longer about that.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone, for their participation. And also thank you, Jaap, for receiving all these questions, big questions. Now I would like to bring to the floor to Kevin too. Thank you, Jaap. Let's give a big round of applause. Kevin is the director of the Coastal Studies Institute and professor of the Department of Oceanography and Coastal Science at Louisiana State University. His research interest is in coastal restoration, sediment diversion, sediment dredging, and management, among others. Like there's a broad list here up here. So, Kevin, thank you very much for being with us. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Xu. I'm from Louisiana State University. It's a great honor to be here. This fall semester is actually for my sabbatical leave, so I'm visiting Dr. Liz Chamberlain in this university, so it's a great honor to be here. So a little bit background about myself. So I got my bachelor and master's degree from China. In the year 2002, I traveled to United States. I was pursuing my PhD. In 2006, I got a PhD from William and Mary Virginia Institute of Marine Science. Okay, and then in the year 2012, I moved to Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge, and I started my career as an assistant professor there. So my whole life has been focused on the research in water and sediment. So when we deal with nature-based solutions, very often we deal with water, we deal with sediment, right? So this is the physical environment we have to deal with. When you have too much water, that's flooding. Too little water, you deal with droughts. Too much sediment, that's siltation. You have to keep dredging the sediment, right? That's very common in a navigational channel. And in Louisiana, we do not have enough sediment. We have too little sediment, okay? So dealing with water and sediment is a huge challenge in Louisiana. So right now in Louisiana states, we are losing about 1 football court size of land every 100 minutes. So that's actually the fastest erosional rate in the world, okay? It's a 1 football court size of land every 100 minutes. So that's a huge rate. So we are dealing with a huge land loss problem. It's a grand challenge. So the topic of this year's future challenge is about the Mississippi River Delta. This is a great topic, okay? It's a grand challenge. We're dealing with a huge problem. In Louisiana, we have huge land loss, mainly driven by very fast local subsidence. We deal with global sea level rise. We also deal with sediment deficiency, okay? Very often when we try to build a structure, we try to solve one problem, then we create another problem. I'll give you an example. So back in 1927, there was a huge flood on the Mississippi River. Lots of people were killed, okay? So since then, the US government decided to build lots of levees in the lowermost part of the river. So that's why we build lots of hard structure, tall, big levees starting around that time. So after we build the levees, we have good structure to deal with the flooding water from the upper basin. That's really good. But back then, we didn't realize that, okay, when you build a tall levees, you shut down the water and the sediment exchange between the river and the nearby wetland. So because of that, the wetland became sediment starved. They are hungry for sediment. They used to get lots of sediment when you have a natural river flooding, overbank flooding with deliver water, nutrient sediment into the ambient marsh. That's really healthy. It's a natural system. But when you build a really tall levee, a hard structure, you shut down the system. So because of that, we are losing lots of sediment. Okay, so that's a huge problem. And I also want to give you another example, which is in the Louisiana Coastal Master Plan. It's actually about the sediment diversion. It's a very controversial type of project. So back in the year 2012, Louisiana government was proposing a diversion. It's a large project in Barretary Bay, which is a bay about 50 kilometers south of the city of New Orleans. And then back in the year 2012, the estimated budget was about 1.1 billion US dollar, which was already the largest project in Louisiana history. And then when time goes by, after the coronavirus, after COVID, because of inflation and lots of intentional underestimate on the cost. The new cost last year was about 3.1 billion US dollar. Okay, and then we had some change on the government. So we used to have a more liberal Louisiana governor, and then we had another new governor who is more conservative. So because of that, our project was actually canceled. It was officially canceled 2 months ago. So the scientists already spent like over 20 years on those kind of project. We did the planning, design, but now we're in the implementation stage, and now the project is canceled. Okay, so it's a very controversial project. We also learned a lot from that. So regarding this future challenge, I have a few quick recommendations. I would say this should be science-based, right? So we should work with scientists. That's very important. But when you try to solve a problem in Louisiana, you also need to think about the stakeholders, the local community, okay? Engaging local community is always number one. You need to try to figure out a way to engage indigenous people. We have lots of Indian tribes in this region. We have lots of fishermen. Okay, we have shrimpers, oyster farmers. We have lots of workers in the oil and gas industry. Okay, so engaging the local community is very important. We have to get buy-in from those people before we move forward. So that's very important. Number two, you have to think about the project timeline. I'm a geologist, so I care about like yearly, decadal, or 100-year time scale. But if you talk with the local governors, their terms are just 3 or 4 years. Okay, so they prioritize what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years, where for the project we are implementing in Louisiana, many of them take decades to see the effect. So the time scale is very, very important. Also, you might be really, really ambitious. You say, I want to do this project, that project, but you eventually in the implementation stage, you have to talk with the local landowners. In Louisiana, we have very complicated situations. Some of the land are belong to the Louisiana government, but we also have lots of private landowners. Just to get a permit to implement your project can take a very long time. Okay, so that's actually something you probably should think about when you plan your project, right? You can see, oh, this is my best location to do this project. I want to build this structure. But if you look at the landowner map, the land might be owned by 3 private landowners. If you look into the detail, maybe in one piece of land, there are 5 owners, 3 different generations in a big family. So those are the challenges you will have to deal with. And also keep in mind, the government can be quite dynamic. We are kind of in a polarized political environment. So if you want to implement your project, you have to think about that as well. So that's my quick suggestions for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. Should I receive you the microphone? Thank you. Well, then I hope today gave you a glimpse of what with nature means. For those who would like to continue working on these topics, join the Nature-Based Future Challenge. Students that have participated in past editions, they acknowledge how rich this experience was for them, not only because of they come to think together of transformative solutions, but also because they build a network with other students and also experts around these topics. If you have any questions, please connect with Marta over there. Yeah, and also Sophie over there. And remember that people that are looking for teammates, they have a green sticker, so you can connect with each other. Thank you very much for participating. Also to Jaap and Kevin and well, to everyone. Thank you.